Hello and welcome to Tales of Whatever online lockdown video YouTube special thing. I love these titles. I'm getting really good at them. Episode 4. I'm Mark, co-host of Tales of Whatever, and this is Lee. Hi,
Hello.
Lee, the other co-host and producer.
Yeah. Hello there.
How you doing, Lee? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I think I'm surviving. Well, I'm actually surviving very comfortably, of course.
Yeah,
at the moment. It's sort of, I'm finding it's changed me. I baked gingerbread biscuits the other day.
Hipster.
I know. I baked gingerbread biscuits, and I'm mainly and I've started using my Instagram account, a personal Instagram account. Yeah, it's just pictures of my cat.
Okay, nice. That's 99% of all Instagram accounts, though, right? That's like it's kind
of.
It
is. Nothing is more cliche.
Cats and nudes. Just if you can combine the two, it's an automatic, runaway viral hit. So
yeah, I haven't got to the nudes yet, but give me some time.
Nude cats, that'll do. So stop dressing your cats. I'm delighted it's only taken us until episode 4 to figure out a relatively simple way of doing this with us both at once, which is always nice. So no, it's good fun to be doing it in duplicate. What do we normally say at the start of shows?
We tell people what Tales of Whatever is.
Okay, so shall I do that?
Yeah, why not?
So Tales of Whatever is a true storytelling show where we work predominantly but not exclusively with comedians, and we get them to come and share anywhere between a sort of 5 and 10 minutes true story about themselves based on a first-hand experience that they've had. So just anything that's happened to them or around them or directly impacted on them at some point in their life prior to now. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Sounds like a good summary of Tales of Whatever.
That's about right.
So each week we're bringing 3. So it's been 3 so far, 3 each show, but that might change in the future. Might do more, might do less. Who knows? But generally, we'll bring you 3 amazing people. They're going to share true stories in line with what Mark's just said, and then that's sort of how it works. Show's free, so you can watch it for free. If you enjoy it and you're able to, you can donate to us at ko-fi.com/tales or whatever, and that keeps the show going and also enables us to support the performers as well.
Have we now decided it's Ko-fi? Is that the approved government mandate?
I've never.
I don't know. I mean, coffee seems to, because the idea is that it's like a coffee-sized amount of donation, isn't it? But then it's really annoying pronouncing it coffee when it's spelled Ko-fi. I'm happy with Ko-fi.
If I say ko-fi.com/tales or whatever, there's a vision of people typing in coffee, and that there's an alternate universe where there's a coffee buying website and a user called Tales or Whatever who's just getting lots of free cups of coffee all of a sudden.
I was going to say, it sounds as if we're mainly interested in funding our ridiculous coffee habits, which is, I've got my,
which is a lot cheaper now I can't go out to buy coffee.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, I've always found that practice abhorrent anyway. I'm just I'm like a Seinfeld, get my coffee at home. Oh no, is it the way around? He gets his coffee out. I can't remember which way it is. I think he only gets his coffee out of the house, doesn't he, or something? But whatever. It's mainly to do with the fact that I'm too cheap to pay for coffee anywhere else. So so that's kind of the gist of it. That's what we are doing currently, and these are like little mini indoor versions of what the live show would normally be. The live shows are normally about 2 hours, and we usually have between 4 and 6 people on. Obviously, we're all in lockdown and unable to do anything live, and that's a problem. So we are getting around it by doing these little online bits, of which this is number 4. So should we just go straight into our first story? How do you want to?
We should, yeah. All right. First of all, we've got a fantastic comedian, Russell Hicks. If you've been to any of the major comedy clubs across the country, you probably have seen Russell at some point. He is known for sort of live wire. I won't go as far as say improvised comedy sets, but every comedy set that he does tends to be a bit different, tends to be led by what's going on in the room. He's absolutely brilliant, really, really funny comedian. You can check him out on russellhicks.co.uk. He's currently trying to posts content sort of every single day on his YouTube and Instagram channels, and you'll find details somewhere down there below in the show notes. But without further ado, over to Russell for his story.
Right, so I was about like 23, maybe even 24 at the time, and I used to hang out at all these like dirty punk bars, you know, but for like old punk rockers, like, you know, people in their like 20s and 30s, just total burnouts, right? And there was this guy who always used to come around. He was like independently wealthy, you know, we didn't know where he got his money from, but he just, you know, he just looked like one of those dudes who, I think he did something with the internet at the time, right? Something, whatever. Anyway, he was an absolute slob, and he used to hang out with these total, like, different people every time. They were just like carnies, right? This patchwork of people. And they would just get absolutely hammered. Anyway, he owned a limousine, and he would have people drive him around and just get wasted all night, you know? And my friend, who was an actual limo driver at the time, used to do it for him, you know, just drive him around. One night, my friend couldn't do it. So he says, do I want to do it? I'm like, okay. So I'm in like my leather jacket, my ripped blue jeans and everything, and I'm just driving this dude around in his limousine, you know, there in the back, like 15 people, just getting absolutely hammered, like incoherent. Who knows? Maybe I was drunk at the time. I don't know. I did not look like a limo driver, and I'd never driven one in my life. And I think I said I did, just to get the gig. Anyway, I'm driving them around, whatever, they're being annoying. And as the night progresses, I drop them off at this house, and I'm just sitting outside, right? I'm driving the limo. And, you know, they're like in there doing whatever they're doing. And after a while, they, like, one person comes out, this girl comes out, and she's like, get me out of here. And I was like, well, all right, you know, I mean, I got to wait for everybody else. She's like, I'll give you $300 if you just drive me home right now. I was like, where to? Okay. Take her home, $300, come back. As soon as I get back, some other guy runs out, and he's like, get me the fuck out of here, man. I got to get out of here. And I was like, all right, you know, I got to wait. And again, he was like, I'll give you $100, which was a little bit below my fee at the moment. But I was like, you know, my going rate was $3. But I was like, yeah, all right, we're going. I take that guy. He gives me $100. Then as I'm coming back, I'm like, I don't know why, you know, whatever, man. You know, people just want to bail, whatever. I'm driving back. All of a sudden, there's 2 cop cars behind me. And I was like, ooh. First, there was one cop, and then there was another one. And I was like, all right, I don't, you know, whatever. And then there was another one, and I'm like, this is, okay, what's going on here? And then I turned the corner, and there was a barricade of cop cars, right? Like, you know, like in the movies, like they're just all lined up, like it was like a 2-lane road, like I couldn't get, and all their lights were going, and then I look behind me, you know, because I've stopped, and now there's more cop cars behind me. I'm totally surrounded by cops, right? And they're on the bullhorn, and they're like, get out of the car. And I was like, whoa, okay, you know, so I get out of the car, and they've got full-on guns out, like, I'm not exaggerating, there must have been like, I mean, 30, there was so many cops, dude. All guns out, all drawn at me. And this is America, right? Accidents happen. And they told me to turn around. I turn around, I put my arms up, and they're like, back up right now. And I'm backing up slowly, and you can just feel, I don't know if you've ever had a gun on you, but man, and that many guns, I mean, this was like the SWAT team. Oh God, it's just the weirdest feeling, man. You just think at any moment someone's just gonna like accidentally, you know, light one off. I mean, and there was so many cops, you know what I mean? It would have been like Sonny in Godfather, which is freaking like 9,000 bullets at once. And they all approached me, you know, with their guns. They're all swarming in, and I still don't know what's going on. And they get up to me, pat me down or anything. It turns out the party that I had dropped everybody off at, the dude, one of the guys that was partying, he was wearing a leather jacket, he was wearing blue jeans, and apparently he got into an argument with someone in there, or just got drunk, pulled out a shotgun, I don't know where he got it, was waving it around, was screaming at everybody, and that's why all the people kept running out saying, "Get me the hell out of here." Anyway, the cops must have got called, and I was wearing a leather jacket and blue jeans, and I matched his description. So they thought I was holding a shotgun, and if I'd have reached for anything, I probably would have got shot by like 1,000 cops. So yeah, I matched his description, I guess. What I'm trying to say is I was the victim of racial profiling.
Okay, so that was Russell Hicks. Thank you very much, Russell. Lee and I were just saying in the background there, as you were listening to the story, that isn't the first Tales of Whatever tale we've been told that ended with somebody surrounded by gun-toting police. So it was Michael Hackett, wasn't it?
Yeah, Michael Hackett, who came and did the show a couple of times in Edinburgh, 2018, I think.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, 2018. He came and told us a couple of stories. Really amazing sort of natural storyteller. But yes, it was something to do with a prank staged shooting.
Yeah, it may still be the crux of his set, so we probably better leave it there.
Years ago, yeah.
I'm sure he's moved on, but it's a cracking story.
So. Yeah, so it's like a staged prank shooting that somebody witnessed and then reported to the police. And it sort of spiraled out of control. And yes, they ended up surrounded by armed police. So it's an interesting subset of tale stories we're developing.
Yeah, I think in Michael's case as well, it's one of those stories where, well, much like Russell's actually, like where, in fact, knowing the bare bones of the story doesn't lessen it at all, because it's having it told by the person that it happened to. Just is something else. So yes, thank you very much, Russell. Great to have you on, and appreciate that. And up next we've got Sean Morley, who's a very good friend of the show. We went on the radio actually with Sean earlier this week. We're on BBC Radio Sheffield. Sean is Sheffield based like we are, and well, actually it was due to the lockdown situation and the skeleton staff, it ended up being, I think it's now Radio Sheffield, York and Leeds for the time being. So we tripled our reach straight away. No, I'm kidding. We'd still rather not be having to do it. But we went on the radio with Sean talking about lockdown and comedy and stories, and we'll maybe put a link to that somewhere if we can find it. But we played a little clip from this upcoming story from Sean, and we're delighted to be able to show you the whole thing now. So should we just 3, 2, 1 over to Sean Morley?
Yep.
Do it. Welcome, Sean Morley. Thank you.
Welcome to my segment. I'm just in my room at the moment on my PC, which I appreciate doesn't provide a lot of visual interest, but neither does, a live venue backdrop most of the time. And this is the only place where I can actually use my fancy, useful microphone. And also it has the added, wouldn't call it advantage, but having a microphone, having the webcam slightly above my head means that I've managed to discover this. And that looks like that's been going on a while. How is someone who's 6'3" supposed to find out about something like that? Society doesn't really have a mechanism for me not to have to discover that when the project is clearly well underway. Anyway, in 2015, I got interested is the wrong word, but I was reacting badly to a story that had become newly popularised regarding Kyle MacDonald and his red paperclip. One red paperclip is a story documented by Kyle MacDonald of his attempt and his success at becoming a millionaire by taking a single red paperclip and successively trading it for something worth greater monetary value until finally he bought a 2-story farmhouse, which was worth at least $1 million, completing his journey. And he did that from, it took him a year, more or less, give or take a month. And I thought this was kind of, the story itself is good, but it was always being used and being pushed to push this entrepreneurial spirit, this kind of bootstrapsism that anyone can just with a bit of elbow grease, can just become a millionaire in a year if they assert themselves. And this, to me, just seems patently false. And so I thought it would be somewhere on the spectrum between fun and interesting to try and replicate this process as me and demonstrate through my own failure that that's not really how the world works. But I thought I'd do it in good faith. I'd find something of no value. If someone offered me something of greater value, I would trade it, and I would just continue to do that. And every time I got something, I just post it on social media. I travel all around the country for performances, so I can link up with anyone who wants to offer me something, and we just take it from there. First difficulty is finding something that is worth next to nothing, but is still conceivably tradable. I settled on a Titanic laserdisc because we can't sell them. Not only do people not have laserdiscs, but they were released as such a big... The film Titanic was one of the films that really pushed hard at being on laserdiscs, so they went over the odds at getting them pressed onto laserdiscs. Pressing is probably the wrong word for a disc that is read by an optical laser scanner. I find it really hard to get myself out of a hole when I've even just verbally messed up even slightly. I don't have the adrenaline of the gig to hoist myself out of it with the dexterity that I'm normally used to, nor do I have the energy that's created by an audience thinking, oh, he's fucked it. I just have myself feeling flatly at home. An error, and now you're internally distracted. What was I saying? The Laserdisc, and it's worth nothing because they pressed, created over the odds what they needed, and so I managed to trade that for a limited edition handmade zombie hand puppet created by a company which was or is called Cask Theatre. And then I traded the puppet for some artwork made by an American artist called Natasha Allegri, who is most famous for her work with a cartoon called Adventure Time, amongst other things. Check out the original pilot episode of Bee and Puppy Cats, which is very good. And that's obviously worth a lot because she's quite famous. So then I managed to trade that for a 4-person Euro tent, or a Euro Hike brand tent. And that one's easier to price. That was worth approximately £150 new. The tent got a lot harder. The first things just went by in a matter of weeks. Once I had the tent, it was just a bit too pricey for someone to be willing to part with something that cost like just under £200 for, in order to aid and abet my frivolous joke scheme. So I kind of embarked on the disastrous idea of trading the tent for all the remaining stock of a novelty jam salesperson's going out of business sale, where I came into the possession of dozens of novelty jams of unusual flavour combinations like coffee and plum and carrot and lime, all made with vodka, so they're alcoholic, and that became what I was trying to trade on. No one wanted these, and especially given that their combined value was going to be over £200, no one wanted to trade me one expensive thing for several lifetimes worth of novelty jam, which is fair. And at this point I'd kind of snookered myself. So I did all that I could, which was to allow people to trade smaller denominations of jam, and then they'd take from the main pile and they'd just contribute items to that. And through that I got the limited edition combined works of Jane Austen. I got a gallon of contact lens solution. I got a few Danish phone charger mates, which even to this day I'm not 100% on why you would want them. They're like a shelf you can use with a plug to create a shelf for your phone when you want to charge it, but you don't have anywhere to put the phone. It creates a little plug shelf. They're not good. They're just bits of plastic, really. I got an Android tablet, which I couldn't ever get off German. I got a meat suit, which is a sort of a hazmat suit upon which it was coated in pictures of plastinated organs and autopsies. I won't go into why that existed. There is a semi-valid reason and history behind the meat suit, and I think I still own it. And the problem is that this stack of jams, which could live in the kitchen, had been replaced by a cacophony of items that filled the house and my bedroom. Like, a gallon of contact lens solution alone is quite a cumbersome thing to store when you live just in a terraced house in the north. And it was ruining my life, I would say. I had loads of things, and then no one wanted to trade them because a lot of them were eccentric or useless or too much of something in bulk. And I'd entered myself into the worst of both worlds, really, because what I wanted was for it just to fall flat on its face. But actually, I'd made over £500 in no time at all. But I couldn't progress further. So it didn't work as a way of benefiting my own life, because these things were kind of unsellable and I didn't want them, and they were just in my house. But also, it had gone too well to satisfy my original intention of it being a satire on American dreams, entrepreneurialism in the first place. So it kind of was a bit of a disaster overall. But I came away not really feeling like it proved either of those things. And I found out that before the red paperclip guy, there was an original Japanese folktale which like far predates the blogosphere, called Warashibi Chosha, the straw millionaire. And it's just about a farmhand who he has a bit of straw, and then that attracts a horsefly, and he uses the buzzing of the horsefly to calm a baby, and then the mother of the baby gives him some oranges, and then he meets a dehydrated woman who gives him some silk, and then a samurai trades the silk for a horse, and so on and so on. And then he becomes a millionaire. But rather than being like a tale about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, the market will provide if you work hard enough, this is kind of a Buddhist folktale about honouring every little thing, and if you live a balanced life where you treat everything with respect, you'll be rewarded for it. I don't think that's quite right either. The problem with true stories is that I'm always searching for some sort of moral or conclusion, and life doesn't provide them. It's just sometimes just events just stop and then are preceded by unrelated events that we now call a different chapter of our life. I think the true moral is, and it's not that everyone has like a little economist in them that wants to maximize their own potential and increase their profits, but nor is it necessarily that everything in the world is of equal value and needs to be respected because of some kind of Shinto animism. I think it's just that if you start doing a mad weird thing and you work in the arts, a lot of people will give you junk from their house so that they can participate in it, provided that they're not expected to part with anything worth £100. That, I'd say, is one of the truest rules I've ever learned in my comedy career. Good night.
And that was Sean Morley with his story of trying to buy a house with junk, essentially.
Or proof that you can't, and then getting weirdly close.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much to Sean for that. It's always a pleasure. Sean's a real friend of the show, and pretty much wherever we've done the show, Sean's often been a part of it. So it's a huge privilege to have him on as part of this. Mark, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of his upcoming endeavours?
Yeah, well, I've been Sean's one of those people who's been creating really just wonderful stuff. I was going to say almost in spite of or because of lockdown. He's an artist and comedian who works a lot with video and sort of audio visual weirdness, as well as his very live performances, and that's played to the fact that we're in lockdown has played to a lot of his strengths. Some of his Twitch streams have been fantastic, and he's got one coming up on Wednesday, I think, which is he's decided that comedy is dead forever, and he's going to be a sports journalist now, which if you Sean is funny already, but I can't wait to see what that's going to involve. I think he's asking for people to send videos in potentially as well, talking about their favorite types of ball. So that promises to be a deep dive into the lore of all sporting endeavors ever. But yeah, no, I can't wait. I think it's on Wednesday, but we'll put links to Sean's Twitch and things like that down in the description as well. So yeah, thank you, Sean.
Wonderful. So we're going to move on to our final storyteller. Actually, before I do that, I don't know. This is the first time that we've done this, sort of record the links together, and it's a really odd thing to be sort of in a conversation with you, Mark. But I don't know where to look.
Yeah, we were saying in the break that normally when I've done this on my own, I'm very, very conscious of always looking at the camera. But now it feels rude to not look at Lee when Lee's speaking. But then when I look at Lee, it looks weird. So we're hoping that the fact that there's two of us on screen at once means that the usual traits or tropes, I should say, of looking people in the eye when you talk to them are null and void, because there are, by definition, of at least three of us in this chat. There's me, Lee, and you. So yeah, let's just say when there's three of you in the room, you can look wherever the hell you want. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb. Good rule of thumb. But as I say, the shows I think have been getting. We've been learning as we've been going along, sort of how to put things together, and this is the latest evolution. So hopefully it will continue to improve, and I'll figure out where to look at when I'm doing these links in the future. Yeah. Anyway, on to our final storyteller. Rabiah Coon is a new friend of Tales of Whatever. We've not met her before. We've come into contact during lockdown, but she got in touch.
Sounds very sinister.
Yeah, got in touch during lockdown. Yeah. She got in touch. She's a New York comedian from New York who's recently relocated to London, and she wanted to share the story of the last time she experienced a widespread lockdown when she was back at home in New York, and there was a hurricane, and a huge proportion of the population were put under lockdown then as well. So she just wanted to share the story of that. So with no further ado, over to Rabiah.
My name is Rabiah Coon, and as I've been sitting here in lockdown in London as a new expat, I've been thinking about the last time I was in lockdown. It was back when we had Hurricane Sandy in New York City. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment, and I actually had a friend staying with me. She had just moved to the city pretty recently and was waiting to get into her apartment, and so it was two of us in a one-bedroom, and I had my apartment pretty organized then. Like, here's where I sleep, and here's where I live. And so my living room is where I had my television and basically everything I did other than sleep. And so I also had my friend and a air mattress there. And we keep very different schedules. And so it was a little bit difficult. When I would get up early, I wouldn't really be able to go do anything. And I had to kind of wait around and really kind of be isolated within isolation and just stay in my little room. And slowly I would kind of take things from the living room into my room so that I had my own like separate flat. It was a little bit strange, and it felt a little weird to be like stuck inside a room inside my smallish apartment. But we found it fun, and it was a different experience than now, because it was just like there was no real imminent danger. There was no threat to our health or even our home. I lived way, way uptown in Washington Heights, which just wasn't in any danger of anything happening. And we definitely did a few things to prepare, because we had some warning. We knew it was going to come. It wasn't like there was this announcement and that day everything shut down. And so there wasn't the same panic buying. It was a little bit different. I don't remember running out of toilet paper. I don't remember thinking about toilet paper or buying toilet paper. I do remember that we were concerned about being hungry, and that was something we were always concerned about then anyway. And so my friend and I, we got a bunch of stuff. We went to Trader Joe's, which took about an hour just to get to because of where I lived, and we went to the local store by me. And we decided we were going to food prep, and we made all this food. I made pasta. I remember pasta, with olive oil and goat cheese, thinking it'd keep better than marinara sauce. Well, I mean, at the rate which we ate all the food we made enough food for like 3 days. We were trying to prepare, and then we also made some food that didn't have to be refrigerated for another 3 days, and we kind of basically had a week of food ready. We realized on like day 1.5 that we had eaten most of our food that we had prepared, and there's something about one's appetite when they're in isolation, I guess. But the biggest thing we had done to prepare too was make sure that we had enough Oreos. There was, for some reason, that's all I was worried about. I had a colleague in town too. He was in town from Belgrade, and he was staying in a hotel in Midtown, and he was like, you know, what should I do? And I was kind of like looking after him and making sure he was prepared. And I said, well, make sure you get Guinness and Oreos, because you're going to want to drink and you're going to want Oreos. And he didn't even know what those were, but he listened to me. And I got a text on day 2 saying, hey, thanks, these are great. And I was hoping he bought other food, because I didn't really advise on that. I had never been in a hurricane before myself. I didn't know what to expect. But there was also this kind of surreal feeling of like watching the news and seeing all this destruction around me. But again, looking outside and seeing, well, a tree fell in the back, but it was no big deal. And that was about it, but just not being able to go outside. And I remember we had a deadline. We were going to have to be in by dark on a certain day. And I panicked all of a sudden. Why I panicked is really crazy. I planned to watch The Big Lebowski during this time. My friend hadn't seen it before. I was a big fan, and I needed to have White Russians. And I was out of Kahlua. So I hurried as fast as I could. I told my friend, hey, I'll be back. I forgot something in the store. Do you need anything? And she's like, no, but what? It's almost dark. It's dangerous. And yeah, it was dangerous. I mean, the wind had started blowing. It was raining already. I hurried away on my bike, and I ran, and I got in the liquor store just in time, and I bought enough for like probably a month's worth of White Russians. Of course, then I didn't have milk, so then I had to like ride up to the store and hurry up and get milk. And all this was just to have White Russians. There was absolutely no other reason for this. And yeah, and it was a big deal though. That was the thing I needed and wanted. And now I don't even know, you know, because I don't have that same perspective, I guess. I have the same perspective on The Big Lebowski, which I watched, I think, 3 times in 2 days. So at least I got through some of my inventory of White Russian mixed items, the vodka, Kahlua, and milk. I can't even have milk anymore. But it was crazy just to like have that be such an important thing, and just for realizing how much destruction happened, and that was my concern going in, and people were losing their homes, and I'm worried about The Big Lebowski, and Oreos, you know, but yeah, so we ended up staying in the lockdown for a while. My friend, I realized, sleeps a lot, naps a lot, and it turned out fine. We got into a rhythm where as long as I kind of stayed in my room until about 10 a.m. every day, she was okay. I hadn't really disturbed her or woken her up. And then she would just nap, and I would watch TV. I started making YouTube videos that were stupid. Mostly it was me just doing a commentary on what I saw in the news, because that's necessary, although I think that's like a whole industry is around that. But just the reporters reporting live from the scene of it, near the eye of the hurricane, standing out there. It's hurricane, it's windy. Yeah, we see it's windy, dude, and you're gonna get hit in the head with something. I think that still bothers me the most about news reporting, is just seeing, you know, the weather guys really putting their life in their hands when there's a hurricane. Or probably some reporters who don't even care about the weather. They're just kind of like glad to get on national TV, but maybe they're gonna get knocked out by something. But a hurricane, when you're kind of out of the zone of one and trapped inside because of it, I don't know, the danger doesn't seem real. What did end up becoming real was right after. And things didn't go back to normal right after it. It was like we were allowed out, but you couldn't really get anywhere. A lot of the subways closed down. I was way uptown. I mean, I was a good 10 miles out of the area of my office, and I couldn't take the subway. My subway station was closed. My whole line was closed for about a month. That meant taking the bus for an hour. I was going to work one day and I was really angry because I could work from home. I worked from home really effectively. I was a good employee. There was no reason for me to have to go into that office. I was so angry at my boss. And I was like, fine, I'll come in, but I'm going to be an hour late. And I went to get on the bus, which I hadn't ridden much in New York yet. I got more familiar with it later. And I get in the bus and it's so crowded and I can't even stand. I can just, kind of, and I could do enough to just get my phone, take a picture and say, this is how crowded the bus is. Why do I have to come in? And I could have just sent it to my boss, but instead I sent it to our executive team by accident because I replied to the wrong email. And I just said it was abusive that we had to come in and how oppressive it was and how we should just be able to stay home and why can't we? And it's better for the city and we should be more responsible. We worked in transportation. Why didn't we understand this? It was kind of a rant that was written kind of with a hand that could barely move. But, when you can have a swiping keyboard in one hand and enough room to move your thumb, you're pretty good. You can say a lot in a little bit of time. And I did that and I just went off on him and I was able to work from home for 2 weeks and I was super happy about it. When I finally did get down and saw some of the damage though, that was really weird too. And I just think that lockdown, it's kind of like we're all doing it right now. We all did it then. And I think people have done it at different times and it's been okay. I've definitely learned a lot about what healthy choices I can make while I'm in lockdown. Maybe not have White Russians as my primary food after having pasta for 2 days and running out of it. Maybe don't binge eat, those kind of things. But the first time I was in lockdown, that's how it was. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun to have a friend there and just to kind of laugh and be scared, but then know there was nothing to be scared of, and have all the rain coming down and, texting back and forth with family. And now it's just a different thing where we're all in it and we're all just kind of waiting. So that's the first time I was in lockdown. This story is going to be a lot different.
And that was Rabiah Coon telling us the story of the last time she was in a major lockdown. So thank you very much, Rabiah, for getting in touch to share that story with us.
And possibly for being the most apposite story we're ever going to get, on this channel. So, yeah.
Possibly. Though we did have a story about Eddie Large last...
Oh, that's true, actually, yeah.
Was it last week or the week before?
I think it was episode 3, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Dan?
Yeah, it was Dan's story. It was really nice story. If you haven't watched episode 3, go back and there's some great stories in there from Ilaria Passeri, Matt Hoss and Dan Webber, one of which is about Eddie Large, which is quite a nice story. Mark, do you know the thing I'm finding really weird? Do you know the first time you hear, when you do some radio or you hear a recording of your own voice?
Yes.
And it sounds weird to start with, then after a while, that's the way you hear your voice.
You just accept the grim reality of the fact that you sound like a Smurf or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But the thing is, this is like the video equivalent of that, because I'm talking and I can see myself talking. I didn't know I looked this way when I talked.
Right. Okay, interesting.
Very strange.
Have you not been doing a lot of zooming then?
Yeah. It's sort of the visual sort of version of that, hearing yourself speak for the first time. I'm finding it very distracting.
If it's any comfort, I realise that in the first segments, as I was saying in the break, I've got my my screen mirrored for myself just because it's less confusing. So I keep pointing to you and realising I'm pointing off screen. You're actually that way. It's very, very confusing. But and in fact, as I said at the beginning to you off camera, I'm sitting in front of this gigantic window, and every time the sun comes out, it just bleaches me out to complete ghost status.
You're a ghost.
So I've, despite all my tinkering with the light levels, I've become a ghost again. I do apologise. That will happen from time to time. I will just become a spectre. So yeah, I do apologise for that.
Well, I think that's show 4 is pretty much done.
In the can.
The can. If you've enjoyed the show and you'd like to donate to support the show and to enable us to support the performers, you can go to coffee.com/what tales of whatever, or ko-fi.com/ Tells Whatever. Links down there in the show notes. Also links in the notes for all the performers you've seen today. So Rabiah Coon, Russell Hicks, and Sean Morley. There'll be links to all their stuff down below. So please do follow them.
Thank you very
see
much
what
to
they're
all
up to.
those guys, obviously. You know.
Absolutely. Thank you to them for sharing stories. You can check us out on social media, Facebook. We're on there at Tales of Whatever, at Tales of Whatever on Twitter. The website, taleswhatever.com.
That's if you only want to remember one thing, that's probably the easiest way to get to all the others. So I don't know what that was. Just that's how you do. That's the internet. That's the international symbol for interneting. So yeah,
so flying around to all the different things.
Yeah.
If you're
very upset. So.
Yeah. And if you're interested in perhaps sharing a story and recording a story for us, you can get in touch via our email, which is taleswhatever@gmail.com. I think that's all the parish notes.
That might be all the housekeeping, I think. Yeah. I feel like now there should be a glitter cannon and we should just leave. But that's not going to happen.
Try that for next week.
In lockdown, that's a terrible idea. So should we just say bye?
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. See you in episode 5. Bye.